going to read the bios for everybody, and then we'll go through with all the presentations. We may take, depending on time, we may have a little bit of time for some Q&A before the break, but if not, we'll do a super Q&A at the end. We have, as I said, 6 presenters. Scarlett Smeal is the operations manager for Pet Friendly Services of Indiana. She's been with the organization since May of 2013 and is responsible for maintaining the organization's financial records database and automated forms, and is the liaison with the veterinary clinic partners, providing reduced cost spay-neuter surgeries for the clients served. Scarlett's been actively involved in animal welfare since 2011 and served as president of the largest all-volunteer rescue group in central Indiana from 2013 to 2015, and founded People United for Pets, Inc. in 2016, which is devoted to rescuing at-risk dogs due to medical or behavioral issues and rehabilitating them into adoptable pets. In addition to her work with Pet Friendly Services and 4Pups, Scarlett and her husband Joe also own and operate a kennel-free dog boarding business, Just Like Home, in Cloverdale, Indiana. Scarlett and Joe's 4-legged family consists of 3 dogs, 3 cats, 3 goats, and a mini horse. Audrey Garrison. Audrey joined Operation Catnip in September of 2014 and became the executive director in January of 2015. This is Audrey's first paid job in animal welfare, although she began working for cats and community cats in 1991. Her areas of expertise include trapping, caregiver support, and turning nearly any space into a high-quality, high-volume spay-neuter clinic for cats. Karen Little, along with her husband, Karen, founded the nonprofit TNR group Alley Cat Advocates in 1999. Based in Louisville, Kentucky, the group has altered over 50,000 community cats. The organization altered 24,000 of those cats using a M.A.S.H-style spay-neuter clinic. And in February of 2020, they opened a community cat complex, which includes a high-quality, high-volume spay-neuter clinic for community cats only. The group has worked to transform the culture of care provided to community cats in the region and was instrumental in the crafting of a 2012 ordinance change that moved Louisville's municipal shelter to immediately implement an extremely successful return to field program. This return to field program quickly moved the city's live release rate to cats to over 95% in 2017, where it has remained to the present. Leah Kennan. Leah has a long history in veterinary medicine and animal welfare. She graduated from Berea Institute of Animal Technology in 1986 and started her veterinary technician career in Denver, Colorado. She later moved to Germany and worked for the Army, overseeing mobile wellness clinics in remote bases and running the Central Surgery Clinic in Frankfurt, Germany. Once back in the States, Leah worked in mixed animal practices until she joined the Feral Cat Coalition of Oregon in 1998 to manage the new mobile spay-neuter hospital and all of its operations. She became operations director in 2002 and medical director in 2019. During her tenure, Leah has managed and grown the spay-neuter program for helping 1,800 cats per year to 7,500 per year. She's overseen the Feral Cat Coalition of Oregon's transition from a mobile program to operating a freestanding clinic. She expanded the clinic capacity, leading FCCO to build a larger spay-neuter clinic and add services for pet cats, wellness, and more. As medical director, Leah manages the Feral Cat Coalition's overall medical program training and future planning, and is actively engaged with other spay-neuter programs locally and across the country. Leah's drive for a high standard of care and efficiency has been invaluable to the success and reputation that the Feral Cat Coalition of Oregon has in the community. Leah has always been a big picture person, and it is key to why the Feral Cat Coalition of Oregon continues to develop to help more cats and caregivers. Doral Sackett is the director of the Spay-Neuter Action Project, a model organization for many spay-neuter mobile programs throughout the country. Under Doral's guidance, SNAP's high-volume surgeons have altered over 68,000 dogs, cats, and rabbits in the San Diego region, sparing the lives of hundreds of thousands of unwanted litters. After moving to San Diego County in 1999, Doral found herself building a very successful humane education department and the first kids community service program for the Rancho Coastal Humane Society in Encinitas. In 2002, it was no surprise when Doral joined the SNAP team, where she implemented her first spay-neuter mobile unit and a responsible pet care program in Greater San Diego. In her role as director, she oversees the operation of the 40-foot Neuter scooter surgical unit and pet education program in underserved communities. SNAP continues to provide affordable spay and neuter services, pet education in schools and other youth locations, and volunteer projects for children and adults. Doral's leadership abilities, vast networks and partnerships, attention to the latest trends in animal care, and a hands-on approach with clinics in all parts of San Diego have made SNAP a successful and efficient nonprofit organization. To date, SNAP remains the only provider to visit communities generating high shelter intakes in San Diego County. Cherry Storms has served in the animal welfare field since 2005 during her tenure with Pet Friendly Services of Indiana. She's helped grow the organization from a regional service provider to a strong statewide leader with the mission of preventing suffering by preventing unwanted litters and protecting outdoor dogs and cats. Pet Friendly Services provides free spay-neuter surgeries to rescue groups and shelters and also provides low-cost surgeries to limited income residents. This partnership with 130 veterinarians makes this possible. Sherry holds an undergraduate degree from the Indiana University in Bloomington and a master's degree in public and environmental affairs from IU Indianapolis. She and her husband enjoy the companionship of 6 indoor cats and 2 outdoor cats. So this is the team we're going to be hearing from today. And we are kicking off with I believe it is with Leah Kennan from the Feral Cat Coalition of Oregon.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Stacy. This is very exciting. It's fun to have a Spay Neuter Clinic conference after all this time. This is a pretty big topic, so I'm just going to touch on some things. My contact information is on my last slide. If you have any questions, I also, in my handouts, have some supply lists and inventory lists that might help you. So let's get started. Started planning. So it's okay to start small and grow into your mission. We started as a M.A.S.H style clinic, just serving the city of Portland, Oregon. We had an opportunity to get a mobile clinic. Some of our board members at the time were not really into that. They wanted to keep it small, and other board members were like, yeah, let's do it. So we had a change of leadership, and we created our statewide spay neuter program with our mobile clinic. So one of the pieces of advice that one of my mentors, who was our president at that time, Dr. Sherry Speed, said was just keep it simple. Don't make it too complicated. And I stick to that to this day. Be open to opportunity. Things will come up. It might not be what's in your picture or in your plan, but think about it. Maybe that's what you need. And it takes a little bit of luck. We received a letter one day asking us what we would do if we had a large amount of money and given to us. And my ED and I were just like, I don't know, let's think about this. We put our dreaming hats on and decided that we wanted a clinic that we could expand into and expand our services. And that started a long relationship with a donor who eventually became our angel donor, who allowed us to expand into our current clinic. And this is him, Roger, and a little kitten when he came and visited one of our clinics. And I think he took that kitten home with him. This is just a picture of our mobile clinic. When we were mobile, we were only doing free roaming cats at that time. So we didn't have any cages on our clinic. And I think it's kind of a unique model still to do high volume. So anyways, this is our little prep area and cats waiting to go onto the truck. Building your foundation. A foundation is really important for the strength of your whole organization and for longevity of your spay neuter clinic. This is really basic. I'm sure most of you already have a board of directors. If you're starting out, you will need to develop one. Think about a diverse board who will fill roles that you need as you're growing. Kind of even if you have currently have a board, you might want to think about recruiting board members who can help you grow fiscally or operationally. Maybe an attorney, a CPA, definitely development, and HR. Mission statement's also pretty basic. I'm sure everyone has a mission statement, but it's really good to review your mission statement often. We have strategic planning every year, every other year, and always review our mission statement to make sure that it still fits what our vision is and we're staying true to it. We refer back to our mission all the time when we're considering new programs. And I think that's really important and it's kind of your guiding star in keeping you on track. Ours is pretty simple. It's to improve the welfare and reduce the population of feral and stray cats through spay-neuter programs and education. And with that simple mission statement, we've been able to expand to pet cats, low-income pet cats. We've had different programs for rescue groups. We have 17 rescue partners. We have programs that send kittens from our feral cat caregivers through our program and then into a local shelter for adoption. So anyway, I just feel like it's important and being sustainable. Fundraising is a big part of being sustainable. There's a lot of fundraising information out there. I had my our development director kind of come up with some points. She's really good at what she does and she's doing it for a long time. So these are some just simple points. Developing a development committee is kind of unique, and we've had one since the beginning. This includes your board members and other people who are willing to ask for donations, who might have connections. This spreads the base of the number of people who are asking for donations, and it increases the number of relationships you have with donors. It's pretty basic to track all your donations and provide a thank you for all your donations. We have our board members, for instance, call our major donors at the end of the year just to thank them. And it's great for the board members because they get to talk to donors who tell them how they got involved with their organization and why they're donors. And then the board member gets to share what their donations have done for the organization. And they like it because they're not asking for anything, they're just saying thank you. This is an example of one of our fundraisers. Is an invitation. Every year we have a fundraiser called the Fur Ball. It's become super popular. It's themed every year. The year of this one was Saturday Night Fever. It was really cool. It's a really fun event. We've had the same graphic artist and designer duo for the whole time we've been around, and so everything has a distinct look for us. And I think that's also important, is to create, something that's distinct about your organization so it's recognizable. Sharing your story is super important. Diversifying your support. You don't want to rely only on grants or only on large donors. You want to have multiple income streams coming in. And if you can have someone dedicated to this, you can have someone starting to write those grants and responding to your donations, doing your thank yous. These will build those long-lasting relationships that are going to see through the tough times. This is an example of celebrating our success. One of our milestone cats, we will celebrate our milestone cats and tell their stories, and people really like that. It's an example of spreading the word. At the beginning, we were having a hard time. At the beginning, we didn't need to have any marketing because our clinics were always full. But as we increased capacity and we wanted to focus on free roaming cats, we needed to get the word out there so more people knew about us. One of the ways that was really effective was bus benches. We were able to put our advertising on bus benches in low-income areas, and it was really affordable, and we got a lot of calls from those. We also hold specials throughout the year so that we can promote them to get word out. And I think having a special in February is really important because we want to get a jump on the breeding season. All our services are donation-based for feral cats. However, using the word free is kind of magical. And when you're feeding, 20, 30, 40 cats, free is a good word. So those are just examples that we use. Choosing location for your clinic. So now you've got your board, you've got your mission, you've got fundraising. Where are you going to place your clinic? And most of the time, we're going to be targeting low-income spay-neuter, and that's also where a lot of free-roaming cats are going to come from. So if you put your clinic in that area, you're going to decrease the need for other services like transportation, and you may not have to income qualify those clients if you're already in their area. What was really important to us, one of the important things was that we wanted a parking lot. We didn't want people loading and unloading cats on a busy street. That took a while for us to find. And you want to have public transportation nearby. And for us, what was really important was to be in a centralized location within the city of Portland so that people could get to us from all directions in the state, because we have people coming from all over the state of Oregon and Washington. So now, we're going to put your clinic, thinking about the layout. I work in the clinic, and I have worked in the clinic since the beginning. And so for me, it was kind of easy to think about how our layout was going to go. And the first stationary clinic that we had, we actually modeled it after our mobile clinic flow. And that made things a lot easier because we already had job descriptions and volunteers were familiar with that flow. We changed it a bit in this new clinic. I think keeping the staff sightlines open is really important, especially now that we're social distancing within the clinic. We can't really hear each other when we're talking, so we need to be able to see each other so that we can communicate and so that we know what's going on in order to be as efficient as we can be. And when you're thinking out the layout, try to think about your staff and how much they're walking and moving, because they're working really hard during that day, and you want to decrease the amount of physical effort that they have to make. And that's also with creating stations where they have everything they need at them. And within a pivot motion, and a lot of you guys know that term, you want to be able to just turn around and get what you need and not have to walk 2 steps. Which sounds kind of crazy, but when seconds count, it matters. These are some examples of our clinic just looking at sight lines. The picture on the left is looking from our anesthesia where we're anesthetizing the cats into the prep area, and you can also see into the surgery area. Your anesthesia tech, at least in our clinic, is pushing the pace of the clinic, and they need to know if they need to speed up or slow down. The other picture is looking from our prep area into our cage cleaning area. We have volunteers who clean the cages and get them ready for recovery while we're doing surgery, and it's also into our recovery area. It's important to be able to see our volunteers so that we can answer any questions that they might have. This is a picture. I just want to point out these rolling racks. These rolling racks have been really literally one of the best things. They just love them. I just love them. We use them, we roll them up into the lobby. So when we do check-in, we just load the traps and carriers or whatever they come in onto the racks in numerical order. And then we roll them back here, back to the surgery area. During checkout, we load them, they're still on the racks. We roll the racks out to lobby, and we're able to just unload them from the racks to the people. So we're not doing a lot of lifting and carrying of those cages, and it's just way more efficient and faster. These are some areas to think about when planning your clinic space. I'm not going to go through them all. This is what we have anyway. Everyone does things a little bit differently. This is what we have. Our autoclave station, your instruments are one of your biggest investments, and you want to take really good care of them. And you also want to pay for a little bit higher grade instruments. You don't want Pakistani instruments in your surgery packs, although you can use those Pakistani clamps for neuter clamps for your cat neuters. So you want to take good care of them. This is our autoclave station. We have our autoclave, our washing and rinse station, our ultrasonic cleaner, and our instrument milk, all in the same area. One thing I really like about our autoclave area is in our clinic space. And so you can be standing in this area and still look out into recovery. You still know what's going on. You're not stuck in a hallway or in a back room somewhere where you need a separate person to do that. These are just more pictures of our stations. You want to make sure you have everything at your station that you need. Our prep stations are looking straight into our surgery room, which is really nice. So they can see what's going on, and the vets can also see what's happening. We have 2 vaporizers in our prep area, and we have 2 anesthetic vaporizers in our surgery room. We also have a transfer room, which I know is a luxury for a lot of people, but we really wanted one. We also have used the bathroom and offices before, but it's nice to have this room. Just something to point out is we had the ceiling tiles tacked down because, as you guys know, when a cat gets scared, especially a feral cat, they're going to go straight up. And in our last clinic, we did have a cat go into the ceiling, and he was up there for about a week, I think. We have a lot of cats that come in carriers. These cats are not necessarily tame. A lot of them are really feral. And we transfer them into these transfer cages so that the anesthesia tech can just poke them and not have to deal with the extra time of transferring. Communication is really key. We use these tags for communicating basically from the front to the back when they're checked in. We'd like to know if they're feral kittens. They're staged in a different area of the clinic together. But it's nice to know if there's more than one cat in the trap, so it doesn't surprise the technicians. If the cat has a medical issue, that's also communicated to us this way. These tags also help our recovery volunteers know that there were 2 cats in this carrier, and there's probably another carrier ready for the second cat to wake up in their area. This is our surgical room setup. We only do cats, and so we retrofitted grooming tables for our surgery tables. And we had these in our mobile clinic as well. They're just grooming tables. We had extensions made so they could be raised high enough. And we had the metal covers made for them. So it was much more economical than getting a big table. And it's actually really helped because our vets are able to kind of keep distanced. We have 4 tables in our room. It's ideal to only have 2 or 3 vets, however, because that way you can always have 1 empty table to have a patient set up on. So the vets always have a patient in front of them. Things you want to think about are ergonomical relief things for your vets. They're standing in one place for a long time. Anti-fatigue mats are key. We have anti-fatigue mats for all the veterinarians and also in our stations for our technicians who are standing in one place. I like to have a countertop in my surgery room. It's really helpful. It's also a good place you can store all your packs and your supplies, and you just have somewhere to set something down, put the radio, whatnot. And you can see out from surgery, you can look straight into the prep area. This is just a couple of pieces of equipment that I have found to be really helpful in our feral cat clinic. A cautery unit that's mounted on the wall. It's mounted on a stack between the 2 prep tables, and we use this to cauterize our ear tips. And that way you don't need to have a clamp on the ear tip, hanging off the cat's ear through the process. And it's just done right away. We have far few less bleeding ears. And then these little blue egg shaped things are fluid warmers. So, obviously a very important piece of high volume is making sure that your patients are warm and supported through the whole process, and getting warm fluids is part of that. They're also put in a station with heat support underneath the pads. So keeping them warm is good. Record keeping. This is part of your sustainable part. You want to keep really accurate records, and you want to be meeting your state regulations for medical records. We use Clinic HQ as our software. You can run reports on it, and they are coming out with improvements all the time. We enter records. We keep paper records, and then we enter them after surgery before the cats go home. Ordering medical supplies, you're going to need a DEA license. You use one from one of your veterinarians in order to order your medical supplies. There are vendors now that have shelter discounts that also include spay neuter clinics. Back in the day, there weren't too many that included spay neuter clinics for nonprofit, but now there are, and they're really worthwhile. So I just make sure you check into them. And you want to also create relationships with your reps. They will often keep you apprised if there's specials, if there's short-dated vaccines, things that you might be able to use at a discounted price. This is just an example of our surgery record. The veterinarians keep this in the surgery, and that's something that we use to enter into Clinic HQ. And then this is just kind of a little example of our surgery table setup. These little letters are something that we just actually started this last month. And it's just kind of a nod also to, you could continuously improve if it makes sense. I was waiting one day to take a cat off a table for the vet, and they're talking, and I waited for a few seconds, to ask if the cat was routine, because if the cat wasn't routine, there are some things that we might want to do post-operatively and that the technicians need to know. And so I made these little tags and trialed it out with our veterinarians, made sure that they felt comfortable with them, understood the purpose. And what they do now when they finish the surgery, they put this tag on top of the cat, and then the technicians know what to do with that. And the vets like it. I had to make more letters because they wanted to play Scrabble. But it's actually been a big improvement, and it saves us time. We also have these plastic cups that we put on the tables that have Velcro on them. It keeps their surgical glue and their sharps. They're really easy to clean at the end of the day. This is an example. We have an exam room that's a multi-use room. We have our cage banks in it currently that we use when we were doing pet cats. We're not doing pet cats currently because during COVID we were closed for 6 weeks, and we had a backlog of about 3,000 surgeries. So that had us focusing purely on feral cats for quite some time, and we still are, because we are at capacity just doing free roaming and feral cats at the moment. One thing I wanted to point out, I don't have a good picture, but these blue discs are awesome. They're gel heating discs, so they're soft and not hard like the pink ones. And we use those under the cats in surgery. We use them while they're waiting to be prepped, and we can put them under their cages if they need more heat support during recovery. Okay, this is just a picture of our cage cleaning area. We used to just have one table. In order to social distance with our volunteers, we set up 2 tables. They have all the supplies they need. They clean the cages and set up the cages for recovery. This is an example of the cages being set up for recovery, and then some of the cats that are already recovering. And then the volunteers will watch them recover until surgery is done, and then staff takes over at that time. We have a trap room, which is, it's a dream. It was a dream I had, and it's really great. We have around 300 traps here in our Portland depot, and then we have other traps around in different areas where volunteers check them out to people. However, I wanted a space where we could keep them clean, have volunteers be able to clean them, and we could keep them organized and ready to go. So we have a trap room. It's mostly empty in this picture, which is awesome, which means that they're out being used. And the tub sink was a big hit with our volunteers. It was their favorite part of the whole new clinic. That was all they wanted. They wanted somewhere to wash traps if they needed to. So we also have a really good trap tracking system. I didn't put it in here, but we barcode our traps and we scan them in and out. We no longer lose traps, which gave me the confidence to order more traps. And if you want more information, you can contact me afterwards about that. Our reception area, we don't have people coming into the lobby anymore, but that's where all the magic's happening with the appointments being made. We have 2 receptionists that do all of our phone work and also check out traps all day long. And this is looking into our lobby. Once again, we've got the racks with traps on them, and so we can easily hand them out for checkout. For COVID, we have an app that we use. I think it's called Wait While. People are supposed to wait. They wait in their cars. They check in. And when they check in, they're told where they are in the list. And when it's their turn, they're called and asked to bring cats up to one of these 2 tables, and we check them in there. It's actually working really well. I don't think we'll go back. It's actually really nice to do it this way. We didn't have any covering though over the tables to begin with, so we had this awning designed and put up so that obviously it rains a lot in Portland, so people are out of the weather. Staffing your clinic. This is our current staffing model. I'm not going to go through it too much, but this is what we have for our staffing. Developing the medical team, like the presentation by Ruth earlier, it's really important to follow your State Practice Act, and it's really important to have a good clinic so that veterinarians want to come work for you. That's one reason why you want to just follow every rule that you can and have the best clinic that you can. One thing that we have that's unique and I think is really, really helpful in retaining veterinarians is we have a veterinary advisory committee. These are comprised of all the vets who work for us. We meet a couple of times a year, and the vets get to, they have their ideas. We talk about our protocols. Do they want any changes? And including your veterinarians in your decision making is going to go a long way in retaining them. Kitties. Your support staff. Also not going to go through that too much, but your support staff. In our state, we need to have a licensed veterinary technician to administer anesthesia and to intubate. Vet assistants are not legally allowed to do that. If you allow your vet assistants to do that, you're not following the Practice Act and you make your clinic become vulnerable. So I do not suggest cutting corners where it comes to following your rules and regulations in your state. You want to hire people who are experienced at the beginning. As they learn the processes and become adept at what's happening, then you can hire people who are not as experienced because you'll have somebody who can train them. And then we have staff that's not on the medical team. It takes everybody for the clinic to run and to be here. So I also wanted to point out that it's more than just a medical team, and there should be a volunteer coordinator on this list. I just left it off for some reason. And then the rules and regulations we talked about. The Practice Act is very important. Make sure you read it, like Ruth said, and make sure you follow it. You're going to need to have procedures and protocols for everything. That's super important for high volume because you want everything done the same way. One of the most important ones is your surgical protocols and your anesthetic protocols. I think I have examples of some of our protocols in our handouts. And then one of the things I just kind of wanted to touch on is when you change your protocols or change your procedures, your SOPs, don't do it lightly. It really causes frustration for everybody and decreases your efficiency. Just ask yourself a few questions. Does it solve a problem? You know, what are you trying to do? Like when we created those letters, it solved a problem, increased our efficiency, didn't create any extra work. There's no budget increase involved. And so it was a good change to make. When you make a change, make sure everybody's aware of it. Have meetings, over communicate, because if you don't, it can create a grumpy staff. And you want to track your success. That's why you want to keep your stats. You want to show you are successful. You want to show that you are meeting your mission. These are things that your donors are going to want to know. These are some types of things to track. We track a lot of everything, basically. These are some examples. And when you track your success and you can show your success, sometimes you get things donated to you, like this cute little transport van that we had donated to us with a cute little Oscar on the side. He's one of our milestone cats, as we were able to show success and a need for transport. So some tips. That was just a broad overview. In my handouts, I have an equipment list, what we used, and a supply list, what we use anyway. But keep it simple. Cultivate your relationships with your veterinarians. You know, you pay them well, treat them with respect. Don't ask them to do extra things. Many of the things that Ruth said, that will go a long way. Make sure you're following everything. Vets want to work for a practice that's good. That's not going to harm the reputation. It's only increase the reputation. And I'll tell you that a lot of our veterinarians have come to us because other veterinarians we work with have told them to come work for us. So that's very helpful. Network, listen to your staff, stick it to your mission. And that's about it. ASPCApro.org. I didn't write that down for some reason, but a lot of you already know about that website, but they have a lot of information on budget worksheets and training videos for your veterinarians, equipment lists, and sample clinic layouts. So I certainly recommend that you go to ASPCApro.org and get more information. So.
Hi, I'm Audrey Garrison, and I'm the Executive Director of Operation Catnip. And some of the previous presenters have gone over some of the steps, so I'm going to work really hard not to duplicate a lot of the information. Our mission focuses on community cats and providing learning opportunities for vet students. So if you've got a vet that comes to you and they've been through Operation Catnip, there's a good chance that they have done an inordinate amount of surgeries for someone just out of vet school. We provide donation-based for our services are donation-based, and we use Clinic HQ for our record keeping. But some of what I'm going to talk about has more to do with utilizing a private practice veterinarian clinic to augment or to provide some spay neuter for your community. We serve only community cats. We do some M.A.S.H style clinics at the vet school. We have our regular clinics that we run on weekends at a facility that we lease from our local humane society. We only did 4,800 cats in 2020. We were closed for a while, and part of that was because we were borrowing a facility, and because our M.A.S.H style clinics are at the university stopped all that kind of stuff. So we only had one M.A.S.H style clinic in 2020, and we haven't had any yet this year, and we don't know when they're going to start. However, we do plan to do about 6,100 cats in 2021 using our COVID protocols and only our weekend clinics at the Humane Society. We normally do deployments, and that's what this presentation is about. Because when we deploy to places that don't have a clinic, and we utilize private practice veterinarian clinics on the weekend to get the cats done. We have a wellness care program that's mostly for kittens, a critical care program for community cats. Our kitten shelter diversion program, we graduated 1,027 kittens through that program in 2020, and that saved about 1,000 kittens from entering our local shelter system. We also have a working cat program that found homes for 171 cats in 2020 that would have otherwise had nowhere to go. There are some pros and cons to getting a private practice veterinarian to help you with a clinic. I know it was talked about a little bit earlier, but not so much utilizing the clinic with volunteers and on a day that the clinic isn't normally open. The pros are that you've got equipment on the site, there's emergency supplies on the site, but the one that to me is most important is that it really engages the community. There are some cost savings, but getting the community engagement is really good. The cons are basically the space is generally limited. So you're not really looking at doing 225 cats in a morning because you simply don't have the space, but you can do easily do 50 to 100. We did 141 in St. George Island one day, but I wouldn't recommend that all the time. There's limited equipment and supplies. Generally, a private practice veterinary clinic isn't going to have enough spay packs to provide you all the spay packs that you need, but there are ways around that, and you can develop some spay packs of your own to add to that group. And you need to maintain relationships with the veterinary community. That's really very important. And generally the time is that the space is available is limited. It would basically be weekends and generally just Sunday. If the clinic is open on Saturday mornings, then you can only go to Sunday. And I have a video here to show you. The first one is a YouTube video. It's a time-lapse video of an event we did that we do pretty regularly in St. George Island. And this is showing the prep area in a private practice veterinary clinic, and it looks into the surgery area. This was our first clinic that we did there, and we performed just shy of 100 surgeries on our first attempt in this small community in a little bit more than a morning. So that was really good. The next video, and she's going to put that in the drop-down box too, or put that for you, is our M.A.S.H style clinic setup. that we do at the vet school. Like I said, we only did one in 2020, and that was in February. We had planned to do 4, but we only did one. And I don't know if we'll be able to do any this year. I'm hoping that we'll be able to get a few of them in. In order to turn a private practice veterinary clinic into someplace where you can do high volume spay neuter for community cats, you're going to need to visualize the space. You're going to need a place for admissions and discharge. You need to make sure that you label the traps and the cats. One of my pet peeves is not having paw tags on cats, not having a way to know that the right cat gets back into the right trap. It's very important. A lot of these cats are trapped, and the caregivers, some of them may know them, some of them don't know them that well, and a black cat looks like a black cat, looks like a black cat. So it's really important to make sure in the clinic setting that you are ensuring that the right cat goes back in the trap. You need a holding area for the cats in the traps out of the weather. We frequently do admissions outside. We have an area in our regular clinic that is undercover that we can use if the weather is inclement, but you need to have an area for them that's out of the weather. You need a vet exam and anesthesia station. We have vet students that volunteer with us, and the vet students or the vet techs do the anesthesia and do the vet exam for the clinics, for the cats at the clinic. Another area for prep and scrub, and a prep area for shave, scrub, ear tip, and bladder expression. And we also scan for chips on every cat, and I think most everybody does that. We ear tip with a cautery type instrument. It's actually a wood burner, but it works really well for us. So we need a table with an electrical outlet. The surgery area, you need an area. It doesn't have to be a designated surgery, but you need a surgery area with good lighting and anesthesia machine. In the private practice veterinary clinic, they have a surgery area that we can put in St. George Island, that we put a couple of vets in to do spays, but we use one of the vet exam rooms to do neuters. So it doesn't have to be, it doesn't all have to be a surgery area. The post-op area comes back, and we do the tropical parasiticide, anesthesia reversal, things like that. Depending on your state, the vet may need to actually administer the rabies vaccine themselves. So that could be done in the surgery area. If not, the vaccines can be given at the post-op area. Then an area for recovery. We have generally phase 1 and phase 2 recovery. It needs to be climate controlled, and it always needs to be monitored. We also use these racks, and we love them. It really saves a lot of space and the like. And we monitor the cats coming out of surgery on these racks, and then they get moved to the phase 2 recovery area after they are fully sterile. This is a diagram of the clinic that we use at the Humane Society, and what you need to do is visualize the flow. And so the cats, this is generally admissions if it's not raining, and the cats come in here, and then they're moved to the anesthesia station, and then they get moved to the prep tables, and then into surgery, and then back through this door to the recovery table for post-op, and then into the cages for recovery, and then back through into discharge. This is where our records tech sits, and they discharge through this door, so we're not clogging this up. And in inclement weather, it gets clogged up a little bit and they get discharged through here. But when you're looking at a private practice veterinary clinic, you need to be thinking about the flow so that you're not tripping over each other, and how to get the cats in and out. In St. George Island, we use the dog runs for we use the dog runs a lot for the secondary recovery area, because there just really isn't a lot of room. We'll roll something into the dog runs. Staffing, if you're going to do this type of a clinic, it requires, in order to save money and everything, it requires a lot of volunteers and a lot of planning. And about enlisting veterinarians to help you, it's all about relationships. You need to appreciate their time and their expertise, and you need to show it, and not like the kissy kitten here, which would need to get a kiss for sure, but you need to be more like the warm, cuddly kittens there, particularly with all your volunteers, but particularly with your veterinarians. You're going to need vet assistants and veterinary technicians. Depending on your state, they might need to be, you might have to have a supply of licensed veterinary technicians. And again, getting them to volunteer their time on a Sunday, you need to make sure that you're warm and fuzzy about the ask, and promote the mission, why it's important, what you hope to accomplish, and to get them on board to spend their Sunday helping you out. And community volunteers, you can use a lot of those too. They don't have to be particularly skilled or anything. They can help you with admissions, discharge, record keeping, and recovery, and maybe movement of some of the cats. There's a lot of different areas where you can use community volunteers. Funding. This is the thing that takes a lot of forethought. You can get money from caregivers. You can talk to caregivers and see what they can afford. A lot of caregivers can't afford anything. And in order for a clinic like this to be really impactful, I think it really needs to be free if you can do it. Local businesses, a lot of times they will help with this type of a thing, because the McDonald's might be willing to help you because you're going to help solve the problem at their restaurant. You can get grants, and GoFundMe is a good source for this type of a clinic setup. Try to move it quickly. I have a bunch of resources in the resource thing, and we are always really open to helping anybody that wants to try to do a deployment type of a situation. We're happy to help you organize it and work through it for you. And that's it.
All right, great. Thank you guys very much. And thank you for having me this weekend for this awesome conference. I wanted to cover some of the items that have already been covered, but in a much different way. And hopefully there'll be some tidbits that will be of value to many, if not most of you here in the audience. A little bit about Alley Cat Advocates to put things into context. We are founded in Louisville, Kentucky, as Stacy mentioned earlier. We were founded in 1999. So we're quite old in the regard to trap, neuter, return organizations. Our mission is to provide for the humane treatment of unowned cats in our region by directing a trap, neuter, return program in the safest and most efficient, cost-effective way possible. That has actually stood the test of time. As mentioned earlier, reviewing your mission is very important, and that is the mission that we started with the exception that we did expand from Louisville, Kentucky to our region about 10 years ago in our mission statement. Louisville is a community, an urban community of 1.2 million individuals. So often when I give this talk, I remind people that when I'm talking large numbers of cats that we've spayed or neutered, to make sure to scale it down to your community size. I have no special wand that made us and our organization successful, just a real passionate drive for the mission. And our goal is indeed to make Louisville the safest city in the country to be a community cat. So our work in general, again, scaling down to your community if it's smaller than ours, is that we've altered over 50,000 community cats via either trap, neuter, return, and return to field. I'll mention the return to field again in a minute. We have a partnership with our municipal shelter, which allows us to help those return to field cats. We receive just under 8,000 calls a year for assistance. Most of these at this point in our organization's history are for direct trap, neuter, return assistance. We are out there in the community. The community knows about trap, neuter, return and has fully embraced this type of a program. Some of the calls are for neighborhood mediation. We do distribute deterrence. We do go into neighborhoods to try to mediate disputes where people aren't as thrilled to have cats in their backyards as perhaps their neighbors might be. So we do provide that as a service. And then we do get some calls that are referrals, often for owned cats, especially in the time of COVID, when our private veterinarians and even our high volume spay neuter clinic isn't able to keep up with all the needs of the pet cats. We do focus, however, only on community cats. We're currently scheduling about 250 community cats a week for spay neuter surgery. Of course, we don't see that many cats actually come in. We're at about 150 that we're spaying and neutering a week at this point. We do have strong partnerships with our local nonprofit limited admission shelter, which I'll mention a little bit more in a minute, and with our municipal shelter. Our funding is through individual donations, grants, and we do have a municipal contract with which is rather unique. We are paid to receive all the community cat calls that come to our municipal shelter. We do that for a fee. They do pay us $40,000 a year to provide that service. We do send all those calls about sick and injured stray cats back to the municipal shelter where they have animal control officers that can better assist those in those situations. And we do spay and neuter all the community cats that are impounded into the municipal shelter at no cost to them or their caretakers, so that $40,000 doesn't go very far, but we're absolutely happy to be partnered with the municipal shelter in that way. So we have been in business long enough to know that flexibility is pretty key to both your organization. While you might have a vision to start out with, like I did to change the world, apparently, there are different mechanisms to get into that reality over time. So we started out with a big fix in year 2000, and we ran that until 2016. And in that, we were doing 12 to 13 M.A.S.H style weekend events per year. During that process, we altered over 24,000 cats. This was all volunteer, and I'm going to stick with this conversation for just a minute to make sure that you can get a picture of it. We did use 6 to 10 volunteer veterinarians on Sundays, and as well 60 lay people over that entire weekend. Veterinarians, of course, we've been talking about them today. We didn't ever have to, and I knock on wood as I say this, recruit our veterinarians. we had I had personally developed relationships with veterinarians in our community prior to starting Alley Cat Advocates, and they were completely on board with trap, neuter, return. And through word of mouth, they were able to recruit their colleagues to come and volunteer for us. And we had 20 volunteers, veterinarians, to draw from during the 16 years that we operated our Big Fix. And that has proved valuable even through today's processes that we use. So over those 24,000 cats, we averaged 120 cats a weekend. And again, if you're in a smaller community, smaller organization, just scale that down. We did end up with a 6-month wait for our Big Fixes, which is why we added in 2011 what we called our Quick Fix version 1.0. At that point, a high volume spay neuter clinic had opened in our community, connected with our private nonprofit limited admission shelter. And so we partnered with them in addition to doing our M.A.S.H style weekend events. And they provided us with a set number of surgery slots per week, which ranged from 100 to 140 slots over that 8-year period that we were making use of their clinic. We used, interestingly, almost all the same processes and procedures through our Big Fix, our Quick Fix 1.0, and then the Quick Fix 2.0. So I want to keep that in mind as well as we move forward, in that we didn't recreate any wheels going from one of these processes to another. The processes, as you'll see through the discussion today, are pretty standard. You might want to make sure the cats are safe and healthy when they come in and when they go out. So again, the processes are all geared toward best quality of care for the cats. We now use what we call a Quick Fix 2.0. We use our own stationary clinic. We had a capital campaign that we ran in the year 2019 to retrofit a building on our municipal shelters campus. And we opened that clinic in February of 2020. Of course, things sort of fell apart in March of 2020, but we were happy to at least have gotten started and our feet wet with our clinic in February of last year. We call it a community cat complex. We were able last year to alter 3,600 cats through the work of that complex. We house in that complex all our administrative offices. We also have, of course, our spay neuter clinic. Then we also have a room for those cats that have further care needs, which we'll talk about a little bit more in detail in a bit. And then we also have what we call a Color Me Special suite for the very few, extraordinarily few number of cats that come through our doors that can't be returned to, excuse me, their outside environment. We do have partners with both our private limited admission shelter and with our municipal shelter to help place those special needs cats that never number more than 10 per year. But we did want to have a catio and an inside space for them while those kidney disease kitties, those diabetic kitties, or whatever their special issue might be, could live and wait for those special need adopters to come through. Our goal for 2021 is 5,000 cats. We do have larger goals on the horizon. I want to also mention that our staffing is currently, we have 7 full-time staff members, and then we have 2 part-time individuals. Then our vet staff is, we have a lead veterinarian who does surgeries 1 day a week and helps monitor the care of those cats in our further care necessary area, and also our Color Me Special suite. And then we have another vet that does surgeries 3 days a week. We do limit our surgeries at this point to 3 days a week. There has been some conversation, and I did mention earlier about where our funding comes from. I will say that our costs to the public for our surgeries, if they live in our county, have been nothing. We provide no-cost surgeries for all of the citizens in Jefferson County. About 5 years ago, we started charging for the cats that come from out of the county. That cost at this point is $30 for our services plus taxes. I felt very strongly that if we need to raise more money to allow more cats to come through our program and to eliminate the cost, then that's the approach we should take. And so far to this point, we've been successful. I did add the cost to the out-of-county individuals, mostly because I felt that we had for 15 years provided no-cost surgeries for anybody who was able and willing to bring cats to us. But I felt that those counties and their governments and their private rescue groups really had latched onto the trap, neuter, return concept, and it was time for their communities to step up and provide funding. And indeed they have. We get vouchered cats from those communities very, very often. So that has worked out very well. I want to provide this overview. There's been, some of this has already been covered, and I'll go through it as quickly as necessary to hopefully keep your attention. As I said previously, these are basically standard best practices that no matter what model you use, whether it's a M.A.S.H style clinic, whether you're using a private clinic and in a deployment setting, as Audrey spoke of, or if you have your own stationary clinic, if you're doing best practices in whatever model you're using, those practices stay very, very much the same. So, as already has been shared, accurate record keeping is critical. You see here a volunteer who's making sure that they're carefully preparing the check-in sheets for the cats as they come in, or they're looking at the cats. Of course, they're looking for ear tips. They're looking for medical issues that may be easily discernible at this point. And then we're going to identify each cat with 2 tags on their trap, one that will eventually go around the cat's neck as they're sedated, but one tag that will stay with that trap through the entire day, even through the process of getting that trap cleaned and ready for the cat to be put back in it as it awakes. And then, of course, there are consent forms that are completed so that the individuals who are bringing those cats to us know our capacity to help the cats and what their responsibilities might be. This is a picture, the big one, of our COVID check-in process, where we're able to be outside for the majority of the year. We're currently doing COVID procedures inside, which looks different, but we're very happy to have a space that we could do check-in outside and still have those conversations with the caretakers. Those caretakers are the ones that are really truly invested in these cats, and we want to make sure that we are bonding with them so that if they have another cat show up, or if they have any questions about the cats that we provide services to, that they know that we're there to help, to have a face, even though masked, to connect with, so that, again, they recognize us as the resource for help going forward. And then, of course, again, another picture of how we did a check-in when we were using the high volume spay neuter clinic associated with our limited admission shelter. And this is another picture of bonding, conversations with caretakers. Again, that allows for better follow-up care after discharge. And this is also the time that at check-in that we identify cats that are not necessarily candidates for surgery. We will continue to check them in, and we will provide them whatever care they need so that they can go back to their caretakers. If of age, they'll go back healthier and happier because of having come through us. And if they're of underage, we will circle back to those caretakers when those kittens are old enough for surgery. At this point is, of course, where we've communicated with the caretaker about the issues, medical issues that they've observed. We do work primarily, except with those return to field cats that we spay and neuter, that we insist on a relationship with that caretaker. While community trappers can provide great help, we really want to have a conversation with the caretaker so that they know the cat. They know the cat so well. They know which cat has been dropping weight. They know which cat came with a limp several months ago, or they may know which cat is coughing. And we want to know as much medical information as we can to provide the best outcome for those individual cats. So we, even if we're using a community trapper to bring those cats to us, we have a phone number for the caretaker. We've scheduled with the caretaker. The caretaker is the one who's, again, very invested in those cats and is going to give us the information that we need. And also, these caretakers, and while we don't focus on this because our efforts are, of course, geared toward focusing our energy on the cat and the cat's well-being, we do recognize that we need money to continue to do what we do. So this is also an opportunity to make those caretakers feel welcome, feel important, as they very much are, and also hopefully to bond with them so that when they do have the opportunity to provide us with donations, that they know that we're willing and able to do so, and that we're a caring, humane organization that will use their funds to the best. We talked in the other presentations about pre-surgery housing, and again, this will be necessary regardless of which model that you're using for the spay-neuter surgeries. So you want to decrease the fear and the stress for the cats. What you see pictured here is one of the homemade racks that we've used throughout our 22-year history. This allows for the traps to be elevated so that they, of course, the feces and the urine can fall through and take care of their conditions that the cats are staying in. We check in the cats the night before surgery. We did try for a period of time to check in cats the day of surgery, but we just found that we didn't have great success with that. By doing it to check in the evening, we prevented unmonitored overnight trapping. We were absolutely certain that cats had no food in their stomach when they went into surgery. We just felt it was a better outcome on a consistent basis. You have to have a clinic setting or your own model that allows for that. But we were able to do that both through the Big Fix, Quick Fix 1.0 when we used a private clinic, and then also through our stationary clinic practice. We also tried having cats come to us in carriers, but we found that we were having, of course, to move the cats into a trap setting so that we could sedate them safely. And that was an incredible drain on our resources. So we at this point insist that cats come to us in humane traps, which we do loan to individuals. And we, of course, do have some individuals who decline to come and pick up a trap and do the work that way. We are so far booked out with cats. Currently, it's just 2 weeks, which is awesome. But we have enough cats in our population and caretakers who are willing to come and get a trap should they not have one, that we're not lacking in cats. And what we hope is that those individuals who were hesitant about getting a trap or using a trap will come around and be able to make their way to either borrowing a trap in their neighborhood or coming to us. And again, we haven't found any lack of business having instituted that policy. And of course, when you're thinking about pre-surgery housing, you want to make sure that you have a warm, safe, quiet space for the cats, ideally with no doors to the outside in case there is that trap malfunction overnight. And of course, covering the traps with sheets helps lower their stress as well. Again, another picture of that trap rack that we build. We do house the cats with their colony mates to help reduce disease transmission from one colony to the next the best that we possibly can. And we do house the mamas with neonates. Those we will put in crates overnight when we receive a mom that's nursing neonates. Another picture of our current lobby setting and these trap racks. The picture in the corner is of our rack that we devised for our drop traps. And if you don't use this type of rack, you will use some type of already formulated rack. You can use PVC pipe cut in half like this to elevate your traps. And then this is in our Big Fix warehouse that we transformed into a surgery clinic. This is a portion of the cats that have been checked in the night before their surgery. Very quickly, veterinary care overview. The standard procedures are going to be minimally a spay-neuter surgery, an ear tip, and a rabies vaccine. Optional care, which we have provided since the beginning, is an FBRCP vaccination, especially since we learned that a single vaccination of this type does indeed provide some preventive titers for the cats. We do provide flea, ear, mite, and worm medications. Also, we seek out the opportunity to help the cats with any dental disease that they have. any injuries or illnesses. We do have dental equipment on site in our new community cat complex, including x-ray machines. So we do that work on site. Of course, it's outside of the spay neuter day. We do think also very carefully about the order in which we do the surgeries when we have the capacity to provide that control, which we did with our Big Fix and we do with our community cat complex. We do the moms that have nursing kittens present first so that the moms can wake up early enough in the day to be reunited with their nursing kittens. Then we turn to the colonies that have young kittens in them. And by young kittens, I mean in the 2 to 3 pound range. We want to withhold their food only beginning in that morning before surgery. And then we want to have them given food as soon after the surgery as possible. And by putting all of those early in the process, we're able to recognize which cats we need to be especially careful of with young kittens so that we can feed them. Everybody else is done after those 2 sets of cats are done. And again, we do them with their colony mates to help reduce possible disease transmission between colonies to the best of our ability. Holding till last, if we have the capacity to do so, are those that identified medical issues. If we know we're going to have time to do an enucleation, or we know there's going to be a tail amputation, we will hold those cats until last. It's rather disruptive to slow the process during the middle of the day to do those processes. And if we can identify them ahead of time, we will hold them to the end. And then just some basic recognition that you'll need to make sure that in your surgical procedures, your SOPs, that your staff and volunteers are properly attired and that hand washing is done appropriately with surgical scrub or some other type of cleaning. Surgical preparation is also important in that your surfaces need to be cleaned. The picture on the right on your screen is spay board application. For our Big Fix operation, our M.A.S.H style operation, we would strap cats to spay boards that, of course, we were able to clean between each cat and move them safely into the surgical suite. Instruments, you see a team of volunteers there cleaning the instruments, using instrument milk, and then preparing packs, spay packs for our surgeries. We're currently working with 50 spay packs, but are gearing up to have 100 available to us so that we don't have to do the autoclaving or any of the cleaning during the day. We can save that work for later in the afternoon and evening with volunteers. You'll need to work closely with your veterinarian staff to make sure that they're aware of best practices with regard to anesthesia protocol. For our Big Fixes, we very successfully used the combo TKX, and at Quick Fix 2.0, we're currently using TTD. There's pros and cons to any cocktail that's used, and your vets should be well versed in which cocktail to use. And the recovery speeds and the rates and the ways that the cats recover differ between cocktails. So your volunteers should be very comfortable at their recovery stations with whatever drug is being used early on. The picture here is our current new community cat complex sedation area and our prep area. And then for every clinic, you'll have the basic surgical preparation, ILU, bladder expression. The tongue position is important so that you can see yet another way to see if a cat is in trouble and respiratory difficulty. Evaluation at the time of prep is good for medical issues such as wounds or dental disease. And then, of course, you're preparing the surgical site. Obviously, there's the all-important placement of the hemostat for the ear tip. And others before me have spoken about the ear tip 1/4 inch down on the ear. We do not use the cauterizing equipment, but instead use the old-fashioned way to take care of the ear. On a personal light, that has to do with my PTSD with regard to the smell of the cauterizing device. So that will need to be put in place, whatever works best for your operation, of course. We do the left ear. There's conversation always about which ear to do. Honestly, if I see a cat that has a right ear that's ear tipped or a left ear that is ear tipped, I'm going to take it as an ear tip. So we don't really care a great deal which ear is tipped. We will not open a cat just because it has the quote unquote wrong ear tipped. And of course, there's careful monitoring of the cats throughout the surgical process. These are basic comments that you can get from any resource. I know that there is an article that's in your handouts, and I'll also provide another resource at the end of this presentation that might be of value to you. Use of absorbable suture. You want to make sure that the vet is comfortable with the type that you're providing, and or you provide what's important for that particular vet. We've already mentioned making sure that you have the temperature in the room, and if you have the capacity to heat your surgery table and also your recovery station in a safe, monitored way, that's wonderful. Make sure your room temperature is appropriate for the cats, and obviously using best surgical practices throughout, of which there's much literature written. Adequate space for the surgery is important. This is our Big Fix setup. These are food preparation tables that you can get at a place like Sam's Club. We were able to put our spay boards cross perpendicularly on these tables, and so at each table we were able to have 2 vets spaying at the same time. You can't see, there's not a good picture of them, but we did use orange work lights purchased from hardware stores to adequately light our tables at this point in our organization's history. This is an example. This is not just an example, but is our current community cat spay neuter clinic where the surgeries are being done. We got the tables donated, so we're using those at this point, and we actually have real surgical lights at this point in our evolution that were funded by grants, which is truly awesome. You need to be prepared for unforeseen issues. You need to have a place for intubation so that you can sedate further if you need to, supplement with oxygen if you need to, and again, be prepared for extra procedures such as eye removals, wound closures, and dentals, for example. This is an example, and I have this in the handouts, of just a screenshot of our recommended treatment path. From the beginning, we wanted to make sure that we treated all cats similarly. So if we see an issue such as stomatitis, what do we do? We pull blood labs on them immediately, and then we will, if it's severe as in the first line, we will designate this cat as a further care needed cat, and we will provide full mouth extractions. So again, this is a handout that's available to you, and it details the most common and quite a few of the potential problems or issues you'll run into the cats over time. This is a picture of the rescue table that we have in our current surgical suite. Again, your staff needs to be trained and have the ability to provide any needed rescue drugs, and training and review needs to be done on a regular basis. This is a picture of our Big Fix and our injection station at that point in our time in our history, but we do these exact same things now in our own stationary clinic. Rabies vaccinations done at this stage, FERCP, sub-Q fluids based on the weight of the cat, Caro syrup on the gums, ear tip, flea and ear mite treatment, and ear cleaning. And one thing that I did fail to mention here, that is that we also scan for microchips. This is our recovery station in our current clinic. Again, we're transforming a treatment table into a recovery space. And again, we do provide some limited heating on these tables. And there you see volunteers working on cats at that station. This is at our Big Fix location. We did provide 1 volunteer for 3 cats as they are waking. And just as I believe it was Audrey mentioned of phase 1 and phase 2, this is phase 1 before they get put in their traps. Phase 2 of recovery is once they've been in their traps. We actually provided a phase 3 as well, and that is a third when they're really completely fully awake, is what we called our phase 3 recovery station. Feeding for the cats, we do that at the end of every surgery day. Post-out surgery, 4 hours out for the adults and sooner for those kittens. We do keep all of the cats overnight. We did early on try to do some releasing on the night of surgery, but we really found that the caretakers were selecting that based on their convenience and not so much their ability to hold the cats overnight comfortably in a safe, warm environment. So now we restrict the discharge to the day after surgery. So we do have the opportunity to feed the cats again on the morning of surgery. We feed in their traps. We use nacho trays, just basic standard nacho trays. So place where you would put the cheese in the nacho tray is where we put water, and then we put the food in the rest of the nacho tray. And again, post-surgery housing is going to be the same type of low-stress environment as you used for pre-surgery housing. Warm, dry, secure, ideally with no doors to outside spaces. We use, of course, very carefully the same trap that was used in check-in, unless we find it to be a danger to the cat in any way. Traps are on racks, tables, or the floor with a space underneath for the feces and urine to collect. We group colonies together in numerical order. So that we can, of course, know who's who. Daytime or evening on the day after surgery is when we release the cats. We used to have a group conversation because so much of the release information is the same across all cats. Now we do everything individually. We always did have an individual conversation regarding each cat with the caretaker. Again, another opportunity to bond with those caretakers. And we do very strongly provide instructions and encouragement to have the caretakers reach back to us with issues and concerns. And of course, then there's the standard discharge. So if we're doing everything that we're supposed to correctly, and especially this neuter piece of the puzzle, the result is happy cats, happy neighbors. And that's what we're looking for in our community. So with that, here are two resources, one of which you have in your handouts. The first one that you should have available for your veterinarians, if not you yourself as someone who's intensely interested in spay neuter. And then we also have found this textbook, very helpful, high quality, high volume spay and neuter and other shelter surgeries. So with that, I thank you very much, and I think we're about ready to move on.
For Karen, do you take out-of-state volunteers? They'd love to volunteer with your program.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, we'll take volunteers from out of country if they'd like to come.
Fantastic. Leah, a couple quick housekeeping questions for you. The cauterization unit and the rolling racks, where do you buy those or get those?
We got our racks actually on Craigslist. We just got really lucky, but I think you can buy those racks in other places. I've seen them at Costco, Sam's Club, and then you can buy the wheels to put on if they don't have the wheels to put on. And the cautery unit, I found online, and I can find the source for it. But yeah, it's actually really nice. We used battery handheld cauterizers as well for a long time, but they just use so many batteries, you know, and we still use them to touch up ears if we need to, like in surgery.
Fantastic. Audrey, I've got a couple questions for you, and this might pertain to other folks too, for who are doing like M.A.S.H style clinics and private practices. Number one, do you have to pay to use their facilities? And number two, what sort of supplies do you have to bring? Do you bring your own anesthesia machines? What do you have to provide going into that facility?
Well, it really depends on the facility. When we deploy, generally we also do a lot of trapping too. We help with getting the cats trapped. But we bring traps and the like to help with that. But for the clinic itself, it varies. We always bring spay and neuter packs. We always bring surgical equipment. And we have brought anesthesia machines, although those are a little bit more tricky to do. But we can do that. And depending on the situation, it depends on what we bring. But if someone's trying to set this up in their own community, I know that there was talk about don't get the Pakistani instruments, and I really understand that. But if you're only doing the clinics, once a month or something, you can get a pretty inexpensive spay pack done using Pakistani instruments. They're not going to last you as long as the good the good instruments. And if you're doing surgery every day, you're going to want to invest in good instruments. But if you're only doing surgery on occasion, you can get away with that and do up some packs so that if you're a small group in a fairly rural community and you've only got one vet clinic, you might be able to, from your surrounding area, get a couple of vets to come in and help out with doing, a spay day on a Sunday.
Right. Excellent. Karen, this is a question for you. How do you estimate the number of community cats in your area?
Well, that's a very good question. We don't spend much time estimating the number of cats in our area. We, in that regard, we're reactive. We've just never, even though we've been doing this for 2 decades, we have unfortunately not run out of cats to spay and neuter. So if we have a community of 1.2 million citizens and we've altered 50,000 over 20 years and we still have 8,000 calls a year, I think that our estimates would be that I don't have to do an estimate because I know that we're still in the thick of it. We have certainly transformed our community in that the live release rate for our municipal shelter is 95% for cats. So we've certainly transformed our community, but we want to maintain the 95% live release rate. And so keeping busy has not been a problem. So I haven't answered the question at all. I think that you're basically guided by the capacity that you can provide assistance. And I look forward to the day when we don't have enough cats to help.
Leo, go ahead, Audrey. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, to add on that, Karen's looking at a community of over 1 million. In Alachua County, it's 250, 300,000, and we've done over 70,000 cats in the last 20 years, and there's still plenty of cats to be done. And so, yeah, the numbers in a smaller community, the numbers are better than a bigger community. The more people, the more cats.
Leah, do you want to add anything to that calculation comment?
I agree with Karen. It's hard to know. I know there's calculations, so we can figure it out, but the same thing, like we just haven't run out of cats. We've been doing that same thing for 25 years, and the need right now is more than ever. Yeah.
So I'm gonna flip it and say, so I've worked with smaller communities, so community with a city with a population of 125,000, very, very strongly targeted program where if you do, and it was a while ago, so I can't remember the numbers, but I do have a calculation worksheet that we've used. Karen used it when we were doing the PetSmart mentoring program many, many moons ago, trying to look at a community to try and anticipate how many surgeries did you have to get into that community to be able to really make an impact. And I'd used this process in Lowell, Massachusetts, and they went from being overwhelmed to what's a kitten. And so it's you can get there. And so if you're looking at it from a geographical, like I want to solve this problem for the whole geography, and if you're working collaboratively with other clinics, maybe you're putting together a plan as a group to say how many surgeries do we need to aspire to be able to reach a level where we aren't asking folks to have to wait 4 weeks or 8 weeks. And I know a lot of clinics are saying we just want to make sure we've got our slots filled, and we're looking really immediately to make sure that our revenue and our services and our projections, but we also do need to evaluate that demand and, is there room for growth, or do we have room for half more clinic, another full clinic, that kind of thing, to be able to reach capacity. Because I think getting to the live release numbers is great, but there's also then this community demand that's outside of those shelter. And I think some of those comments are being addressed in the Northeast at this point in time, because really now in the Northeast, we certainly have huge need for community cat spay neuter. But if a shelter gets a friendly cat in that's pregnant, they'll let it go to term so that they'll have the kittens to be put up for adoption, because there's just not enough volume in the state for that. I mean, there's such a huge demand. So I totally believe in spay neuter for those community cats that are out there. But then there is this whole question about how are people going to source their, adoptable cats after in the next phase. Is it Craigslist? Is it, people who are just going to give out kittens, which is happening, quite a bit at this point in time in our area. But good questions. I always think there's going to be a need for feral cat TNR, though, that I don't think that's going to go away in the near future. So folks, it is 2:01 and I am